What's going on, world? My name is Jay, and today we are reviewing the 2021 Ford Mustang Mach-E. This particular model is fitted with rear-wheel drive and is finished in this beautiful blue infinite metallic paint. It features 18-inch wheels finished in a carbonized gray color. Before we dive deeper, here's some stats. Oh, and be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on IG and Twitter. So we'll talk about the styling of this vehicle because that's kind of one of the many controversial topics of this Mustang. One of the key design features of a Mustang is to have a fastback-like facade. So here we have the roof line that comes all the way back. We have kind of sort of a disappearing roof line, and it's got this black piece here that really gives it a sculpted look. The bottom here along the side skirt is also helping minimize the appearance of the vehicle. Another key feature of the Mustang is a really broad quarter panel. So the rear quarter panel here speaks to traditions of Mustang's past. When we go and we open the door here, everything's automated. You just push the button on the C-pillar and it opens up for you. The front doors here also has a button with a little winglet, and the winglet allows you to push and close the door effortlessly. A simple badge here that states that this is the Mach-E. So the Mach-E is, for the 2021 and beyond, is a energy efficient electric vehicle. So that's primarily the controversy with this vehicle, is that it's no longer the V8 super powered muscle car that is known to be the American icon Mustang. So going to the rear, it kind of gives me an Aston Martin DBX vibe, particularly when you have the running lights here. You have the sequential tail light turn signals. All of this turn signal setup, the brake setup, the rear reverse lights are all LED, so that's a good feature. You have a diffuser that's fairly large. I could see this in the aftermarket being a really good feature. Since you don't have an exhaust, you could put a very flashy diffuser down here. You have also here a blacked out spoiler to complement the roof line for that disappearing edge to give it that slope back feeling. The tailgate for this model is not automated, but it does give you a lot of room. And I would say, for the first time ever, you could actually sit in the tailgate of your Mustang. But anyway, the tailgate is a fairly good size. Again, no automated tailgate, but it does the job. So the front of the vehicle also sports an all LED headlight, and it also has the sequential tail lights and headlights when you have the turn signal on. This grille is a bit controversial, but it speaks to an EV because it doesn't have the traditional grille effect. It's just a solid piece here. For the GT model, it is a larger, more profound piece of panel that's all blacked out to give it a more aggressive feel. One of the most appealing parts of a Mustang is the bonnet or the hood. So here, just like in traditional Mustangs, you do have a very widely sculpted hood. Down here you have a grille that's not really a grille, it's more like a plastic showpiece or a plastic molding that gives it a little bit of aero effect. The grille piece down here looks like it is pretty hollow or fake, but it actually has vents that open up to help with cooling the batteries and as well as aerodynamics. And because this vehicle, the Mustang, is an all-electric vehicle, you have the option of fast charging or standard charging. You do have also the option to charge at home or have free charging at the select Ford charging stations in your area. So that is very convenient and a selling point for the vehicle. So let this sink in. You have a Mustang with 4 doors, and not just 4 doors, but in an SUV variant. And one of the things that you have to do before we even get to the front and get to the driving is to explore the back seat of a Mustang. So we're in the back of a Mustang. Now, traditionally, in previous generations, this would not be as comfortable as it is right now. If you've been in the back of a Mustang 2-door, you know this is not a place where you want to be. But it is very roomy here. I'm 5'7", and the roof line is very high for me. You have leather stitching here that has a little bit of a wavy flow. You have a charge port here. You have your traditional, very familiar air vents for your heating and cooling. The door cards are also leather. Everything is minimalesque, very nice, but a very clean approach to the design of the interior. It's kind of at home when you think about it being an SUV, but when it comes to being a Mustang, I'm not too sure. So, the front driver's seat of the Mach-E. Again, it has that very clean style of the interior design. So let's start up the vehicle. You have a push button start, put your foot on the brake as usual. And it's a great place to be. This screen is massive, and you have different drive modes and different settings, and we'll talk about that later. But the biggest departure from a traditional vehicle is the all-digital instrument cluster. So in the instrument cluster, you have your miles per hour, you have your parking sensor illustration, you have your range, you have your battery life, you have a clock, you have a compass. It's all pretty much there, but it doesn't give you a tachometer naturally because there is no conventional transmission. But the steering column is really nice. This is a leather wrapped steering wheel. The buttons on the steering wheel are very clean and very easy to use. I like the toggle switches for the volume as well as the cruise control. Over here you have your buttons for your mirrors and your lighting when it gets dark, and your windows, very clean, very simple. In the center, even more simple, is you have your drive select. So park, rear, neutral, and drive. There is no quote-unquote sport mode with paddle shifters, and it's definitely not any clutch pedal because it's electric, but it's a very simple, sophisticated way of going through the drive select. You have your automatic or electric park brake here, your parking sensor on or off button, and your hazard light button here. There's ample storage here, 2 cup holders. If you have the urge, you can get the option for the wireless charging pad. This one unfortunately does not have that. Here in the center console you have some more storage, and because it's an EV, you get a lot of room here. So the traditional middle console would have a transmission and a gear select, but because this is an electric vehicle, you get more room, and the console is a lot flatter and lower to the floor. The armrest here is leather wraps with a bit of stitching that looks nice. Up here you have your sunglass holder and your LED lights, as well as your other sensors for your airbag lights and things like that. But the center console is the focal point. So the center console is a massive display. So in the driver or the vehicle options mode, you have a few settings, but there is a first setting called drive modes. There are 3 drive modes. One is whisper, engage, and unbridled. So whisper is, I would consider the standard or the eco mode, and it gives you a light steering feel with no sound. And we'll talk about that in a second. The engage mode is more of a standard drive mode, and it stiffens up the steering feel, and it gives you this artificial sound that gets pumped through the speakers, almost a sound as if it was a whir. I call it a whir, but it's to mimic the sound of a a traditional vehicle that would have an engine. And then unbridled. So unbridled is the quote-unquote sport mode of the vehicle. They could have just called it sport, but it is the mode that gives you the most power on tap. It gives you a very stiff steering. It gives you a higher pitch artificial whir, and it gives you the max power from the motors and the EV batteries. There are other settings here. You have the one pedal drive, you have the propulsion sound that you can turn on and off. Now the one pedal drive I'll talk about later, but it's basically a setting where you can engage the regenerative braking. The camera is also another option for the vehicle option menu. It gives you the ability to view the camera, and this is only a rear view camera, but a very vibrant and detailed camera. The track that gives you the guidance isn't always as accurate, but it's a nice vivid camera. It also displays the parking sensors for the front and the rear. You have the option to turn that off. A driver assist menu that gives you two great controls, which are the auto hold feature. I always love the auto hold feature in stop and go traffic. You also get the ability to turn the traction control off. And this is the rear-wheel drive version of the vehicle. And that is profound because Ford did a great job knowing the customer will want to turn traction control off. Because it's a rear-wheel drive car, they're definitely going to want to get the best experience of a rear-wheel drive vehicle. All right, so other great things about the interface here is that you can configure a driver profile that gives you the ability to integrate your phone. This has standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, navigation. Again, you can configure your phone for hands-free use. It tells you tire pressure, and it even has an owner's manual here that gives you different categories and different bookmarks on the features and the specifications of the vehicle. And the response on this whole interface is very intuitive, low lag, and easy to work with. So first, driving impressions in the Mustang Mach-E. I will say we're at a stop right now, but when we get going, the torque response is immediate. Now I can't push it too hard, because honestly, it's getting a little squirrely, believe it or not. It's been raining, but I don't want to push it too hard because this thing is rear-wheel drive. And just off of the torque, the immediate torque response, you get a lot of slippage off that rear. But all in all, it handles like a regular car. If anybody's been skeptic about how an EV performs, you really don't have to worry. This particular model, this is the base model, it has 266 horses and 317 pound-feet of torque. And you feel it. No, it is not like its predecessor where you get a whole bunch of power from a naturally aspirated V8, but for CUV EV, it's very responsive. I have always thought that the EV experience would be something that's totally different from what you would get from a conventional engine powered vehicle, but not really. This vehicle also has the one pedal drive, so it stops itself completely without your aid. It also has the blind spot monitoring. It has the front collision warning, the rear backup monitors or backup sensors. So you get all the tech features that you could ever imagine, along with the EV speed and response. This vehicle starts at 42 MSRP, but you can easily find one on the lot well over sticker price, well into the 50,000s for the base model. It is fairly comfortable. Well, when you're talking about the experience of driving a Mustang, in my opinion, I think it falls a little short. I think what Ford really missed the mark on is the enthusiasm and the drama that you are used to when you're driving a Mustang. And braking is really good in this thing. I will say that. Whew, a little bit of torque still again. It's agile. It's really agile. There we go. More agile than any SUV that I ever really tested so far, or drove in my personal experience. So that's the driving experience. This Mach-E is a very interesting car. From the screens on the gauge cluster and this huge display and just the overall style of the vehicle. It is an experience. Is it an experience to call a Mustang? That's to be determined. The steering is tightened. Oh. It's electric.
How is that, man? I saw that just came out.
It's cool. It's different. I will say it's not really fast, but it does the job. You're faster than me.
Before I got this, I was just obsessed with EVs in general. Like, I wasn't before for the speed, but like, I saw that came out. I was just really interested.
I will say, like, when it comes to the interior and all the aesthetics and things like that, Tesla and the Mach-E, it's pretty much the same. The drivability, I haven't driven a Tesla, so I don't really know.
Fine time.
Yeah.
Fine time, bro.
All right.
Thanks for watching.